So the first thing I wanted to say about bar chords is I think um, I'm going to assume that because you're here, you've tried playing bar chords and maybe they're not your best friend. And I was thinking about an analogy to use for bar chords. And, I have to carry heavy PA equipment frequently in my job. And I was thinking about, like, I have a mixer is the heaviest piece, and it's about 36 pounds. So it's not something that I can't lift or that most people can't imaginably lift, but it is a thing that, like, if I just got out of bed in the morning and I like reached over a railing and tried to lift that thing with one hand, what do you think's going to happen?
Not much.
Yeah, I'm either not going to be able to lift it or I'm going to hurt my arm trying to do that or possibly throw my back out. And, so uh, with a piece of gear like that, centering myself and bending at the knees and lifting from the knees rather than the back and using some leverage is really key. And I think bar chords, there's an analogy there because bar chords are not something that are impossible, but they are not the easiest thing. And perhaps by changing the way we approach them, using a little bit of leverage, we're going to make it easier. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can. Um, Spotlight. There we go. Now I'm spotlighted. Great. So the first thing I want to do is actually just a little warm up. And so I'd like you to put your ukulele in a safe place. If you've got a strap, you can just leave it on. But if you want to just set it down on your chair or your desk or something, and just take a nice deep breath and let that go. And I'd like you to take your shoulders and just rotate them back like this in little circles. And then we'll rotate those shoulders forward in little circles. And I'd like you to reach the sky and stretch as far as you can and give your fingertips a little wiggle while they're up there. Just kind of waking up those arms and fingertips. And then as you lower your arms, just let your shoulders fall into their sockets and relax. Now I want you to take one more breath, and you're going to breathe in through your nose and let that out through your mouth. And so we're going to start with an exercise that I learned from Stu Fuchs, and it's something he calls the heavy hand. And so I'd just like you to take your fret hand, which is for me the left hand, so it might be your left or right hand, and just hover that, let it float in the air in front of you, and just hold it there for a moment, and then let it drop to your lap or to your side. And so you feel there's quite a bit of gravity pulling that arm down. Let's lift it up one more time and just feel the force of gravity pulling your hand towards the floor. So we're going to use that gravitational pull to help make our bar chords a little easier to do. So let that fall one more time. And now I'd like you to bring your ukulele up to a playing position. And to get that into playing position, we're going to hold it right where the neck joins on the body and cross that arm in front of your chest till it's about at your heart center. And just give it a nice little hug. Hug your ukulele. So that's my playing position. I actually kind of have to finagle it around a little bit to find where it's the most comfortable, but right around there. I'm going to take this hand again and just hang it on the fretboard and feel the force of gravity again, pulling my elbow towards the floor. So I know this all sounds like a little woo, but it's eventually going to come to something useful. So I can feel no playing right now. We're just feeling that arm being pulled towards the floor and the force of gravity pulling on it. So I would like you to go ahead and take your first finger, and actually before you do that, make that nice claw hand with your fret hand, C-shaped hand. Put that thumb on the back of the neck, and just go ahead and make your C chord. Give that one little strum just to hello ukulele. So I'm gonna take my first finger and I'm going to place it over the second fret. So you've probably played this bar chord before. This is a D6 chord if I place it over the second fret here. And I'm just going to squeeze that and then release it. I didn't even strum. I'm just squeeze and release. So you can feel how much pressure it takes to let that finger press those strings down. And go ahead, and this time I'd like you to squeeze and don't strum but pluck each string. And you might hear, oh, I got a bad one there. So we're gonna fix that, right? During the course of this workshop, we're gonna make a better bar chord. But that's a D6 chord. So far so good. This is all pretty elementary stuff, right? So there, that heavy hand is, your finger is gonna be pulling towards the floor, and that weight is like one of the things that's gonna help you. But that's not the only thing. We're gonna have some other things to help our bar chords be better. So the second one, and when I talk about leverage, this is really one of the key ones, is when you're holding your ukulele in a nice playing position. And I'll get rid of the strap here, but it doesn't matter, strap or no strap. I am cradling it in my right arm, and I've got my right arm, my forearm has to press down on the lower bout, the lower part of my ukulele. So that's pressing down on that lower bout, which means that it's pushing the headstock up into my fret hand. Does that make sense? So that is one of the other things. Aside from this arm having some gravitational pull, this arm is pushing the neck into your hand. So go ahead and make that D6 chord again, and this time try using your strumming arm, your right, probably your right arm for most people, pushing that into your finger, and go ahead and go pluck those strings again. See what happens. I'm still not quite there. That's not great, but I'm getting there, right? So I've got the heavy hand, I've got this leverage. The third thing I'd like you to try is we're going to take that finger and I'm going to place it on top of my second bar. So first bar, second bar. That's not where my finger is supposed to be for playing. And if I tried to, it would sound really bad if I tried to strum right there. And I got this from Christopher Davis Shannon. I'm going to roll this finger towards the headstock. So I'm actually, I like to think of it as it's just rolled out of bed. So here I've gotten it on the fret, rolled it out of bed, and now it's actually in the spot where it's supposed to be. And that's given me a nice bar chord. So heavy hand, pushing, and then the rotated finger rotated towards the headstock. So those are the I would say the biggest three tips that I have for making your bar chords better. And then it's a matter of fine tuning, and you may find that you need to apply a little more pressure. So some people like to put a finger on top of that bar, and that can be, that supported bar really gives you a lot more pressure. But this rotation in the finger is extra nice because I think if your fingers don't straighten out completely, and you've got a little bit of bend in your finger, that can really help you be able to actually make all four strings meet the fretboard because you've got that rotation on it. Also, the bony part of your finger is now against the strings rather than the fleshy part of your finger. So if you're trying to press from here, sometimes it's hard to get all four of them down. Rotating it gives you a lot more ability to apply the strongest part of your finger to the fretboard. I'm on a rolly chair and it's rolling away from me. So I'll just pause for a second and see if there's any questions so far about any of that stuff.
I have a little question.
Sure.
Is there a disadvantage to layering your fingers? like starting like as you're learning, like would it be better to just tough it through with try to one finger or
That's a great question. I was actually thinking about that earlier because, when we're doing, let's say, that D6 bar, um, or like the D7 bar, you've got plenty of extra fingers, but there are some of the hard bar chords where you're not going to have enough fingers to pull that off. Um, Maybe it just makes it more complicated. So I don't think there's a disadvantage to it, and I kind of use it intermittently. Like I, don't always use it for something like a D7, but I do sometimes use it. Um, I think it's more of a matter of experimenting and seeing, what you like best. I don't think that there's a disadvantage to trying it for sure. But let's look at some bar chords, and I want to talk about these chords and how to play them, and also at the same time, I want to talk about some of the things that I think are really great about bar chords. So, let's see if I can share my screen here. There it is. So you all see raising the bar, and so this chord I've been talking about here, this D6, the second fret bar chord, and I've got their parent chords, and what I was not sure what to call it, so I've got it in quotation marks. Their parent chords, and what I mean is like the first chord that this chord is built on at the like the early fret where you don't need a bar. And whenever I first learned about this, like this may already be old news to you, but when I first learned that this was a thing, it was like a big light bulb moment, and like my head exploded because I was so amazed. Every chord we have on our fretboard can be moved up the neck. It's just that we don't always know how those chords were founded. So, like, for example, let's see, the F chord, right, is as though there are two strings, this string and this string, that we have open because this nut here is holding those strings down for us. That makes sense to everybody. That's probably old news to most of you. Maybe I blew somebody's head open, but so when we go back to our D6 chord, here's the same as our C6 chord, and if you took my beginner class, you know that this is the one I say, like, you get this one for free, right? Because it's just the open tuning of our ukulele is the C6, and it has another name. Anybody want to volunteer what that other chord is with that same name? Or, I mean, different name with the same chord?
A minor seventh.
Yes, that's our A minor 7 chord. So our C6 and our A minor 7 are the same. Our D6 and our B minor 7 chord are the same. And I think, I don't know, it's just really interesting to see where these come from. This is interesting to me. So we're going to mostly, for starters here, be looking at the D6 and D7 shapes. And of course, we don't have to just play this at the second fret. We could move it down, and it would be a C sharp 6. We could move it up, and it would be an E flat 6. But I just chose the chord that I think is the most commonly seen ukulele chord version here. So D7, B7, B flat, B minor. We'll get into some of these trickier ones momentarily, but for now let's concentrate on our D6 and our D7 chord. So we're going to use those to play a song, Spooky, which is not quite in season yet, but it will be pretty soon. Before I get into that, any questions thus far?
Is there any rule about where to put your thumb on the back and or how far to extend your finger across the fretboard?
Oh, that's actually a really good question. So I like to keep my thumb mostly hidden on the back, and it usually sits, like if I'm playing first position chords, the normal C, F, G7, it usually lives right here, kind of behind the second fret in the middle of the neck. Now, that's not to say that it lives there forever. So sometimes my thumb will slip up and you'll see it appear, but it usually hides. And if I'm playing up the neck, it just sort of follows the rest of my hand. So I guess I just kind of try to find a comfortable position for my thumb relative to the rest of my hand rather than saying specifically my thumb is at a particular fret or anything like that. I don't think there's a rule about that. I think it's a best practice and not necessarily a rule to keep your thumb on the back of the neck. If your neck is popping up above, it just shortens the amount of fingers you have to press down on the strings. And so when you're doing a bar chord, you really need to get that thumb down to give you good leverage. So my thumb is on the back of the neck. And actually, I'm glad you brought this up because along with the three things I said, the heavy hand and the right arm, and the rolling the finger, that thumb on the back of the neck is doing a bit of work too. But as Christopher Davis Shannon would point out, you can take that thumb away, and I'm just using my right arm now completely for that. But the thumb cleans it up for me. It makes it a nicer sounding chord. And let's see, what was the second part of your question? You asked where the rule for the thumb position.
How far to extend your finger? I've seen people online say this, or like, how far the end of your finger. Like yours doesn't seem to go much beyond, but I've seen people put it farther to get more force.
Yeah, I've got mine. I'm going to come up so you can see exactly. I've got mine positioned here. And what that does is it lines up my knuckle where it's kind of covering the first two strings, and then this bend of my finger, this joint right here, is kind of centered over the top two strings. So I've got the bony part of my finger where those joints can do the most work. Does that make sense? Now, I think it depends on the length of your fingers and the size of the neck. This is a very thick neck for a not very big ukulele. So this one's a concert Kaylee, and it's just got a super thick neck. So that might also be why my finger doesn't look like it's sticking out much. Actually, this one's got a pretty thick neck too. This is the flea, but it sticks up a bit more with this one. So, does that answer your question? Other questions?
Amy, I have a question on the handout.
Oh, yes.
Some of the bars are darkened and some of them are white or clear.
That is coincidental. So I do all this myself, and when I made the handouts, I used to just use a solid dot or a solid bar, and over time I've started filling in suggestions for which finger to use. So the ones that are not filled in, you'll see a number usually, and those are suggestions for fingerings. But if you don't see a suggestion for fingering, it's just not there, or maybe I wanted you to not think about specific fingers. So it's
Makes sense. Thanks. I didn't notice the one in the middle of the bar.
mostly coincidental. So let's see here. I need to share my screen again. Oh, relearning how to use Zoom for a meeting. So we're going to look again at our D6 and our D7 bar chords, and we'll try playing this together, and then I'll come back and see if there's any questions. But the main thing is I want you to think that bar chords are approachable using some leverage tools and not a thing to be afraid of. So don't be afraid of these bar chords there. That should be good and centered so you can see it. So in this one, we get to practice going from an A minor 7, a completely open chord, to this D6 chord, and we do that quite a few times. And this is not the only song that does this, and you may have even done a workshop with me where I teach Moon Dance, and Moon Dance does the same thing. My version of Billie Jean does the same thing, and also Horse with No Name. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. I didn't want to make you play that one, and I've done Moon Dance so many times, so we're gonna do Spooky now. If you feel like it's running away from you as you're trying to switch between the A minor 7 and the D6, you could always change to an A minor just to give you something to grip onto there. So A minor or A minor 7 doesn't really matter. So let's, if you are not muted, please mute yourself. So actually, I have the ability to do that. So that we won't hear everyone's ukuleles, but here we go. Let's give this a try. And for strumming, we're not going to worry much about strumming tonight, but I'm going to use my island strum for this one just in case you're curious what to use. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. In the cool of the evening, when everything is getting kind of spooky, groovy, I call you up and ask you if you like to go with me and see a movie. First you say no, you've got some plans for the night, and then you stop and say, and here's our D7, alright, love is kinda crazy with a spooky little girl like you. And then we got an E minor 7, I forgot to warn you that was coming. Let's do second verse. You always keep me guessing, I never seem to know what you are thinking. And if a fella looks at you, it's for sure your little eye will be a-winking. A minor 7. I get confused cause I don't know where I stand. Here comes D6 and then you smile. I'm just gonna mute that. D7, hold my hand. Love is kinda crazy with a spooky little girl like you. Here's E minor 7. Spooky. One more verse. If you decide someday to stop this little game that you are playing, D6, I'm gonna tell you all the things my heart has been dying to be saying. Here's A minor 7, just like a ghost, you've been haunting my dreams, so I'll propose on Halloween. Love is kinda crazy with a spooky little girl like you. Spooky. We can keep on jamming on our A minor 7 and our D6, but I'm gonna stop there and see if there's any questions, anything that came up for you during that. See if I can unhighlight myself here, but I don't know how.
I, I realize I have a bad habit. My thumb starts to creep around, and by the time I'm done, it's like, it's practically, like that. I think it's an effort to like grip.
I'm trying to see. Was
Oh,
that
it's up.
Miles?
Yeah, yeah. So instead of my thumb staying behind the neck, it starts to creep around until it's like, practically on top of the G string, and then I have to make it. I think it. I think my hand thinks that like gripping it like that is going to help, but it doesn't actually really help.
I see what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, it creeps around.
So I don't know if this will help you at all, but one of the classrooms where I teach sometimes, there was a guitar teacher had written on the board "shy thumb," and I don't even know if that pertains to this problem, but I always think of it as shy thumb, you know, maybe get that thumb, it wants to hide
Right away.
down.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
um,
remember try thumb.
yeah, keep practicing that. Let's see. Lee, did you have a question?
On the D7, are we using our middle finger for the added?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, so I was actually, I'm not sure what I was doing. I tend to play D7 with my first finger on the bar and my middle finger for the C note there. But you could also use the supported bar and use your ring finger for that string. But let's try both of them. Let's try the supported bar, so you like cross those fingers and then get that ring finger in there. Or take that away and just use your middle finger. And I find that actually is a little cleaner sounding for me. But if you need that extra support, it can be helpful. So the puzzle is getting in and out of these chords, and Spooky's a pretty simple song because you're going from a D6 to a D7. So I like this one for a starter song. But I would like to look at some of the more intricate bar chords. And again, I'm videoing this, so if you want to try the songs again, you can watch the replay. But any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna share my screen and let's look at some different bar chords. So, our next song, we're gonna look at some options to play 7 chords. And so we've already learned the D7 chord, but there's this other shape here that I probably first learned as a B7 chord, and let's look at that one. So that's third down the first page here, B7, and you can see that's just built from an A7 chord. So it's as soon as we start moving the A7 shape up the neck, we have to add a bar, and we could play a B flat 7, but in this case it's a B7. So now it's similar to the D7 here. We've barred our second fret, but you're moving your middle finger up to the third string. And again, I've got that finger rotated. Actually, let me stop sharing so you can see my hand. Rotated that finger out, which does kind of put my middle finger at a strange angle. If I tried to put that middle finger perfectly right on, then it makes that first finger not rotate. So I kind of just get my hand wedged in there in a weird way. But it works. If you wanted to use a supported bar, you could also do that and then use your ring finger. It does take, again, here's that heavy hand thing. So I'm pulling my elbow down a little bit to get that string to ring out because it was kind of, now of course it's working, but it wasn't working before. So I just reminded myself, heavy hand, pull that elbow down towards the floor. Questions? So far so good? So let's look at this one in context of a song. And I'm going to look at Give Me One Reason. And now this one, I'm just using the handout that I use from my blues workshop. And so I say mix and match the basic chords and the movable chords. So we could play this song without any bar chords. You could use your Hawaiian D7, or you could use your 4-finger D7. And I'm not going to make you play G7 in this weird shape. We're mainly focusing on our D7 shape again and our B7 shape, which if we move it up one more fret, now becomes a C7. And Betty, do you have a question? Or are you just getting your strap adjusted there?
I'm just getting adjusted.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No worries. Oh, you know what? At the beginning, I forgot to say, like, if you ever need to say just yes or agreement, give me thumbs up. And if anybody's like, oh no, panic, and that'll help me be able to see what's going on. But so we've got our C7, which is now a new way to play C7 based on the A7, B7, C7. And if we take this all the way up, there's a teeny tiny little 5 here next to that. I'll zoom in so you can see it. If you take that all the way up to the 5th fret, we have a different D7 based on that A7 or B7 shape. So we could play D7 down here or up here. Why would we want to do that? Maybe if we were playing blues, I think it's kind of cool if we're coming from a C7 to go up to that, just slide up to that D7. But this is not a blues workshop and it's not a sliding chords workshop, so we'll save that. You can do it if you like, but we'll just worry about trying to play some bar chords here. So normal G7, try to get that barred C7 and the barred D7 of your choice, either one. So here we go. And again, I'm just using my island strum, and you can also just strum down, down, down if you don't feel like island strumming. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just do a instrumental chorus. G7, C7, D7, G7. So it's let me start over again. So it's one measure of G7, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 beats of C7, 2 beats of D7, and back to G7. And then we get a C7 for 2 measures. Oh. Give me one reason to stay here, and I'll 1, 2, turn right back around. 2, 2, 3, because I D7 wanna leave you lonely. And then we go to C7, but you gotta make me change my mind. I defaulted to the regular C7 there. All right, so that second line, the C7 is a little strange. We hang on it for a measure plus 2 beats, and then we switch to D7. Hope that made sense. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. Give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around. I'm pretty sure I messed that up. Here's C7. Give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around. Because I don't wanna leave you lonely, but you gotta make me change my mind. Let's play a little more and then I'll talk about some things. Baby, I got your number, and I know that you got mine. But you know that I called you. I called too many times. You can call me, baby. You can call me anytime, but you got to call me. I'm gonna pause. Just give your fret hand a nice little shake. Maybe give it a little wrist massage. So we've been working it hard. So that's the problem with doing bar chords for an hour, is that you do work hard. So it's like if I was picking up that amplifier for many times in a row. So the thing I noticed about this one is just that it's not so much playing the actual bar chords as getting in and out of them. Is that the case for many of you as well? So that's one reason I see for using, if I'm using the bar chords, using that same shape. Although it's not bad for this shape. So in other words, from C7 to D7, it's a quick movement. And then going back to the G7 is what seems harder, which you would think getting to the bar chords is the hard part, but I think getting away. So like any song, it's a matter of practicing that transition, which we could do, you know, a slow 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, practice on those. So far so good. So if you are finding, question?
Yeah, so the let's see, it's this the second string always is the one that kind of thunks for me, and I feel like it's because I land with it's kind of right at the knuckle, so it's not getting as much pressure. Do I just need to like move it?
The second string, this one.
Yeah, the E. Yeah.
You could try, so if you've already tried rotating your finger out, maybe
Yeah,
try
that works about 70% of the time.
That might be a good enough percentage, honestly, but
Okay.
you know, yeah, the rotation. The other thing, you could try adjusting the position of your thumb. If I have my thumb up here, well, let me see. That does make it harder. If I move my thumb down low, it cleans it up right away. So just try shifting your thumb down and see what happens for you. Give it a nice little shake. So those are my favorite, like, those are the easy bar chords, I would say. This and that. So in other words, the D6, sorry, D7 and B7. And then we get into the bar chords that are a little more challenging. So I just wanted to check in with all of you because I didn't ask you for like your level or your experience with playing bar chords, but knowing what I know about the people that I know here, I think maybe we can get into the more complicated bar chords. Is that cool? Give me thumbs up if you say yes. Okay, so let's try some more meaty bar chords. So back to my sheet here. So we did the easy ones, and now there's this one's actually not bad. The B minor version, it just has a stretch to it. But the things that I think people hate the most are the B flat shape, the A flat shape, and the E. So let's take those one at a time, and we'll see how much time we have to play songs with them. The B flat shape, that one is like it. I feel like that's the one everyone hates, and it's the equivalent of the F chord that people don't like on the guitar. So the B flat that I've drawn out here, I've drawn it with a full bar, so you can see that it's moving up from the A chord and to keep consistent with the others. But you know that you don't have to play the second two strings. You can just play the first two strings. So let me show you that on my fingers. Here's a B flat chord with only the partial bar. And I want to show you the way that I like to teach getting into the B flat chord. So you all know E minor, maybe? E minor is that stair-steppy chord that you start on your second fret, first string, third fret, second string, and fourth fret, third string. If we take that same shape and move it up to the next set of strings, same frets, we go second string, third string, and fourth string, we get the not bar B7. So if you don't like bar chords and you want to play a B7 in the other way, that's your B7 shape there. But what I'm working towards here is our B flat chord. So we're going to take that B7, slide it down 1, and now we have a B flat major 7, which is a pretty jazzy chord. And you could use that in place of a B flat sometimes. It's a nice jazzy sounding version. If you're playing a song in B flat, that's a jazz song. But we're going to talk more about that in the Beyond the Sea workshop. So now all I have to do to turn this into a B flat is remember heavy hand. I'm just going to actually be lazy. I'm just going to bring that finger down. So here I was playing this nice B flat major 7. Just got lazy and it turns into a B flat. Now worst case scenario, if I don't quite push the first string down all the way, it's going to go. But if I just get it muted, that's a B flat. So there I've got a B flat chord. Of course, your goal is to bring that finger down enough that you get each finger ringing out, each string ringing out. Now, some people prefer to use the full bar. So here I've got those 2 fingers, my middle and ring in the same spots, but I'm moving my first finger over all 4 strings and doing that nice rotation on it. And for me, it doesn't work as well as using the partial bar. Because with the partial bar, I can really throw that finger out at a crazy angle and get all 4 strings to ring. I'm getting tired. That's a lot of bar chord playing. So the more you play the bar chords, the more you build up the finger strength to do it. It's same as if I were lifting that PA all the time, and I would build up the muscles to lift it more. But also as you're making progress, take it easy on yourself. Be nice to your fret hand and give it a lot of love so that you don't hurt yourself. So far so good. So that's the B flat. That's the like quick and dirty way that I like to get to the B flat chord. Let's come back to the sharing of the screen here. The other nasty chords. So the B minor's not so bad. The B minor chord is that same old 2nd fret bar, and now I've just got a little stretch to get to my 4th bar to make that minor. And that one is a really nice one to use the supported bar, in my opinion. And I use, because the ring finger is the one that has to do the stretch. It says 2 on here, but that's wrong. It should be 3. I guess you could use 2, but man, that's a tough stretch. Yeah, so I'll amend that and turn that into a 3 or a black dot so that it doesn't matter what finger. Here are everyone's worst nightmares, right? The A flat chord and the E chord. I think this way makes the E chord much more approachable. But let's talk about A flat for a moment here. So A flat, you can play A flat one of 2 ways. You could play A flat as though you'd moved a G chord up, and then you have to figure out what to do with that string, and I find it really tricky to try to get my fingers on the strings. So I find it easier to play the A flat as though I'd moved an F chord up. So I'm using my first finger to bar the 3rd fret, and then I've got my middle finger here on the 2nd string and my ring finger on the 4th string, making that A flat. Now, tagging back to your question about whether it was a bad idea to use the supported bar. If you were going to use a supported bar to play the A flat chord, you sort of run out of fingers. You can get your ring finger and your pinky, if you really stretch, But for me, that's harder than getting this position. Now the good news is you don't encounter A flats all that often, right? So if it comes down to it, you can also just play like a G chord and just don't strum your fourth string for an A flat. But that is a good bar way to play the A flat. And last but not least, the E chord. So E, you're probably taught to play E in this shape, which is your D chord moved up. But it's nice to bar that fourth fret and reach your pinky way over here to the, let's see, what is that? The 7th fret where the dot is. So that's a good bar for the E chord. Can make your E chord more approachable. And if you don't get the pinky there and you only barred the 4th fret, what chord do we end up with? It's our A minor 7, B minor 7, C minor 7. So we end up with a C sharp minor 7, or an E6. So there's a substitution for an E chord right there, an E6. So I think that's one of the nice things about bar chords is they can make easy chords harder to play, but they can make hard chords easier to play, like the E chord. And they give you this ability to do things up the neck. So once you start being more friendly with bar chords, it unlocks the rest of your fretboard and allows you to start playing chords up the neck that you would have not thought were possible before. So I hope that in the course of this workshop, you maybe feel a little more confident to play bar chords, which was my goal here. I think we have time to play just one more song, and then I'll open it up to questions and answers. So you can vote. Let's see, what do we have here? We can choose either, we could play Proud Mary, which would let us practice our B minor bar chord, or we could do Slow Boat to China, which is going to probably be a train wreck, but it might be worth trying, which gives us yet another bar chord I didn't even cover, the G minor 7, our D7, and our B flat. So let's see if I can see you all here. I can't figure out how to big screen myself, but let me see. Show of hands for Proud Mary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me see hands for Slow Boat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh man, I've lost track. I think it's about a tie. Let's try Slow Boat, because I think you can learn to Proud Mary on your own, maybe. So we'll try Slow Boat. It might be a slog. We'll see what happens. And if you are one of the people that lives here locally in Boston and you're planning on coming to the Shipping Up to Boston ukulele cruise in August, that's part of the reason I'm doing this workshop. Is Beyond the Sea is one of the songs I'll play. I will definitely play Proud Mary, and I will possibly do Slow Boat to China. So you're getting a preview of playing these songs. So here we go, back to the song sheet. Let's have a look at Slow Boat to China. So our bar chords here, we've got our G minor 7, which is your B flat minus the ring finger. So it's like an easier version of the B flat chord. We've got our D7, and you could also choose to not play a bar. You could play the Hawaiian D7. There is a B diminished chord in this, and this workshop I'm not really covering diminished chords, but that's this like little stairs zigzag shape thing. And I'm sorry, I'll do a different workshop on diminished chords in the future. And we've got our B flat shape. So you can again play B flat with the full bar, or like I do with the partial bar. All right. We'll just truck on through and see how it goes. So here we go. Our intro vamp, we're just gonna do F, G7, G minor 7, D7, F, G minor 7. That should be a C7. I don't know why that's D7. All right, here we go. I'd love to get you on a G minor 7, slow boat to China, all to myself alone. Get you and keep you in my arms evermore. Leave all your lovers weeping on the faraway shore. And if you can't do the B diminished chord, just substitute a G7. It'll sound almost the same. Second part. Out on the briny with the moon big and shiny, melting your heart of stone. Here's a B flat to D7, G minor 7. I'd love to get you on a slow boat to China, all to myself alone. Back to the top. Here's our G minor 7 to B diminished, or you could do G7, F, A7 to B flat. Get you and keep you in my arms evermore. Leave all your lovers weeping on the faraway shore. Out on the briny with the moon big and shiny, melting your heart of stone. I'd love to get you on a slow boat to China, all to myself, ending all to myself, all to myself, all to myself alone. There were a couple little road bumps there, and now I see that I need to correct some things in my chart, but so practice getting from some really hairy chords between them, that G minor 7, D7, and with a diminished chord thrown in there. So that might have been too spicy for this workshop. I'm not sure, but gives you something to try for. So Proud Mary, much easier song, and the only the bar chord is that B minor 7. So at this point, I'd like to open things up for question and answer. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I this has really been helpful to me. Yeah,
Good.
it is really. I understand now why it's only an hour, because I think an hour and a half of trying to do those bar chords, we probably would have to go to the hospital or something. But it was really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the good part is most songs, like Proud Mary, you're just jamming on a D chord for the most of the song, and then you get that one bar chord in there, and then you go back to not bar chords. So I don't want to abuse anyone with too many bar chords, but that was what this workshop was about. Pat? Yes.
Okay. So the on the B minor bar chord, I mean the B flat bar chord, what if that first string is kind of dampened, it's okay. Like you're not gonna have people like giving you dirty looks that if you're playing with them like quietly.
Yeah. So you probably already know that a major chord is a 3-note chord,
Yeah.
and we have 4 strings, so we always get one bonus note.
Okay.
Right? In our C major chord, for example, we get a C and a C.
Yeah.
So in the B flat chord, that's the note that we have doubled. So if you just were to mute that string,
It's really still okay. Like
you're still playing
okay.
a B flat chord, and it
Okay.
might sound a little wonky, but when you're strumming away in a group,
Yeah. Okay.
nobody's gonna notice that.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
you know,
Yeah.
if you can get it all the way there, great.
Yeah.
But if
I mean,
not,
I'll
you're still
practice,
playing.
but right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Amy, thanks for the tip of pulling the neck back,
Yeah.
because I think it goes a long way to helping that situation that Patty was just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I find for me anyway, if I remember to pull back, I can get a good ring out of that high note on that B flat chord.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see. Okay. I wouldn't call it pulling the neck back. I think of it as like bringing my
Down.
elbow lower, but
Elbow. That's
what
articulate. Yeah.
Yeah.
whatever makes sense to you and helps you do it is great. So awesome. Thank you.
I super appreciated it.
Yeah.
Just,
Thank you so
just what I needed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Awesome.
you.
And it's great to see all your faces again. Thank you so much. On a
Love the hearts.
yeah.
much. We did it! Woohoo!
Excellent. You know, grown-ups are never too old for silly
Artifacts.
reactions on.
Good night, all.
All
Thanks,
right. Well,
everybody.
thanks so much. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I'll see some of you next week.
Yeah.